Thank you so much, Joe, and thank you for that introduction, and thank you for making people aware of what we're doing and what we're going to cover today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody who is on board, and I welcome you to this session of us to think on the growth agenda. The utmost results of this discussion is how do we maintain this growth agenda and how do we get to it? And maybe we want to discuss about the tools that makes us to get to this agenda. And why is it important to us? Why should we have it as one of the awesome agendas of the current dispensation? And you can see that we cannot grow, we cannot move forward, and our associations and NSOs cannot grow unless we have a very successful recruitment campaign for new scouts and even be able to maintain the ones that we have and give them the motivation that will make them to remain and even bring more on board or bring more fruits in the basket. Now you can see that growth starts from a very humble beginning. You start with something very small. You may think that you're not growing, but when you start with a small step of planting a seedling, and then you put it in the soil, nurture it, within a few steps of growth, you will find that you are realizing the fruits. And you can see now, once you've planted, you don't eat immediately. You have to nurture that seedling. You have to nurture that young person who has gotten into scouting. And you have to do all what it takes for you to move with him or her up to the time that is going to bring back to the society. And that means you are packaging a gift to the society. You are wrapping a gift to the society from the Cub Scout. And when you move on up to the end, you will see that the society will enjoy the fruits. And you can see in my analogy, their demonstration there is that we are starting from a humble beginning. We are packaging that young scout. We want to recruit them. We want them to become members of the associations of scouting. Then the care we take for them, they start sprouting, growing, and we can see them even gaining the roots, gaining the skills, gaining the expertise. Then they are stronger even to support themselves. And you can see them now bearing the flowers, ready to give the fruits. And once we have packaged this gift to the society, then we wrap it with the best practices of scouting. And finally, we give the society that suitable, enjoyable, sweet, and admirable young adult who is to serve the generations to come. And unless you do that one, then you cannot remain stagnant. You have to move on for your growth to be enjoyed and for your fruits to be seen and to be enjoyed by people. In one of the African sayings, we say that when you see a fruitful tree and there are no stones underneath it, then that means the fruits are bitter and no one wants to eat it and no animal can eat it. So the package you're doing in the recruitment, and once you nurture it, then we would want to see many people coming to that package that you have packaged and drawing a lot of lessons and gaining a lot of understanding and a lot of assistance from them. So you can see once we recruit, we don't stop there. Then how do we do that? Where do we move from? And how do we assist our NSOs to recruit, retain, and bear the fruits of that recruitment? And all along, it is on the growth agenda. Now, the theory of membership recruitment, how do we recruit in our NSOs? How do we recruit in our countries? How do we recruit in our regions? We know that recruitment is not a one-day adventure. It is not a one-day exercise. It revolves around many levels, and many people will always have to do quite much for you to get the right person and the right person and the right package that you want to have at the end of it all. And the first thing that we always think about and put in our mind is that at the national level, these people are there. Whom do we move with? Then from the national level, we go to the scouting groups. Do we have them existing? And from the existing scout groups, then we go to the new ones. We venture into the new waters. And you can see in that form that we have here, that is, we have the support of recruitment at the national level. So the national body gives us the impetus of how we are going to move, giving us what is required. Then we go to the support of the existing groups, if they're there, and then we deal with the new ones. We are now venturing into the areas that we had not ventured. So we cannot say comfortably and state that because we have got a national office, we have the boards, we have even the National Council, we have the groups that are existing. For us to grow, then we need now to move into the new areas. We tap the untapped waters and we go into the forest and get the green sprouting young seedlings and nurture them up to the end when we're packing them back to the society, as Anne said at the beginning. Then how do we do that? Then you can look at the national level, as I had already alluded to. What do we do with that? You need to identify and decide what you want to promote. And here I mean, in that scouting, remember we are now trading, we are now working in the name of scouting at all the NSOs. Our clarion call is a scout. And at the end of it all, that which you are promoting is what? It is that young scout you are packaging, that young scout who has good values, maybe the one who has skills to have life go on without necessarily calling people to come and assist him or her, can be able to do simple things, complex things, and solve the societal problems that we have currently. Like now, the innovativeness that we need to have as scouts to deal with this pandemic of COVID-19. The simplest way coming from these innovative young people is what we need to know. What are we promoting? And once we know what we are promoting, you don't just get into it. There is a bit of identification, and this goes far to your research on what do your audience require. These people that you're giving the information, then you need to tell them what you are selling to them, what you're giving them. And once they see scouts who are responsible, then they will come to you and you get more wanting to be like a scout. And I believe quite a number of you who are listening to me came into scouting because of seeing what other scouts were doing, because of what was being promoted. And this could have been through matching, the uniform, the making of branches, the climbing of trees and coming up with wood to cook for the others, the responsiveness and all those things that were there. So you need to know what you are going to promote. And once you know what you are promoting, then you need to know the resources at your hand. Does the NSO have the required resources? And what resources do you require? It is not always monetary. It can also be other things that are there which you need to do. And for this one, you can get to learn more from our website on Growth Agenda. You need to know your target audience. Who are you targeting? You don't just move to any group. Remember, some groups may just get the information and not get motivated to come in. So you need to know the target group that you're going to promote this campaign to. Maybe the ones who seem to be friendly to scouting, maybe the ones that are ready for their young children to get in scouting and get these values that you are telling and you are selling to them and giving them. And of course, they have seen you do those things, and you've promoted yourself quite well by actions and deeds of what you're doing. Then again, the recruitment has to be at the right time. At this time, again, you can see we are faced with this COVID-19. How do we do it? What are the things that you can do best to make sure that the recruitment is going on? What is the time of the year? Is it during summer? Is it during winter? Which is the best time that suits you? So you don't just recruit anyhow. You have to program it in within a year where you will be able to reap the best benefits and more members will get into you. So not all the times that you'll get to see the scouts joining. Maybe when you have got activities, you promote it very well, and then the campaign for recruitment comes in. Then again, use the appropriate channel. And when we mean channel, what are you promoting yourself with? Are we seeing your best practices being in the best channels that will reach almost everybody in your target audience? So you may not use only the audience that will, the channel that will meet just a small audience. You must get to widen your scope, the untapped areas, the areas that you will need to move to, or the areas that are scouts, but they are not many. Can you get more? And you use the audience and the channel, and maybe that channel could be those scouts, could be advertisements, could be adult leaders, and anybody else who will campaign on your behalf and bring somebody, where we say now, 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 scout, where we mean that you count them as we move on, and you'll get your scouts coming to you through that channel because they have been reached out. Then the growth ambition champions, the people that are now holding that growth idea, you work with them and you move with them. That means you will have to move with them, and you cannot leave behind at the national level because they are the ones who will make decisions and give you the resources that are required, and they will buy in, and they will require to see the numbers come in. So you work with them, you don't leave them behind. Otherwise, you'll be fighting a lonely battle. Once you've done that one at the national level, you can see now how are you packaging it, and which level are you meeting, and which people are you outreaching to. So you can have the parents, that I'm saying the right group. You see, you can have the advertising. I mean, how catchy is it, and which channel are you using? This is what these illustrations want to tell you, that you have to show and you have to tell what you are doing, and through the best channel, then people will always come to see that which is so good, which is so well packaged, and through the right channel. Then once you've dealt with at the national part of it, then there are those groups, there are those scouts groups which are existing. They are also part of the recruitment channel. They are part of the recruitment tools that you can use. And remember, they are the sharpest tools in the toolbox. You don't go for the blunt ones, you go for the sharpest one. And the ones which are there now we have are the existing scout groups. And this one now you have to know that they have to have the customizable communication resources. How do they now move on? How do you come in? How do you give the material? How do you give the resources? How do you communicate to them? And how do they communicate to the others? And this is through verbal and non-verbal communications. Once they go out there to do maybe the volunteer job, once they go out there for camping, they are still communicating. And that is a custom-based communication, which is to bring the scouts on board and attract more as they join in your NSO, and you get more membership. Then of course we have the funding of materials, which is to support this recruitment campaign, where you can have the best of the photographs, the posters, the flyers, anything that you feel is personalized. It's for scouts. And many scouts have done so many things. So when you capture them on that material, on those materials, you will definitely get those who will be interested, and many will come to see what is this unique thing that we are seeing in scouting. Can I be part of it? Just by seeing the photos, posters, flyers, and any other channel that you're using. Then you will need connections, and the connections are with the stakeholders. These stakeholders are going to be part and your channel, part of the channel of your communication. Once they get the idea of what you're doing, and once they understand what you're doing, they will want their children, maybe their grandchildren, and maybe their friends' children, and even themselves would want to come in and support you in gaining more scouts. And this one is, of course, for other reasons, and not saying to you that once the number becomes big, everybody becomes attracted, including the marketing agencies, including anybody else who wants to deal with large numbers. So large number is not only beneficial to you, it is beneficial to everybody else. And for you to get it, when other stakeholders see there is a benefit at the end of it all, they will work with you and assist you to get more scouts. So don't leave them aside. Don't walk a lonely journey. Move with the stakeholders, and they will assist you to advertise, including the parents, including the institutions, and even the other companies that make things that could be used by the scouts. So they will be with you in that journey. Then training and guideline, that's what I'm saying, guidelines and training, they have to be trained. You go for those groups. There are those that you might not have gone to them before. Then you need now to look for them, and you're going to look for them with the assistance of the existing groups. And then you have to share your success stories. Once those groups have done something good, does it end there, or is it published? Is it shown to the world? Is it shown to the NSO? Is it shown even to the other government agencies of the country or NSOs? Is it shown even to those upcoming youth groups and anything that is dealing with the young people? So the success story needs to be shared. And I'm happy that during this COVID-19, most of the young scouts have come up with innovative things which have been shared on very many platforms. And that shows that we care as scouts, and also we can be counted on during the times of pandemic and during the time of need. And that's why now even others would want to join you, because you've shared your success story. If you don't share it, then nobody knows that you exist. And then the chances of you attracting another person through that success story will be almost zero or nothing. Then there is what we call the motivating factor. What makes these people stick to that group? If there is a motivating factor that is attracting them and making them and keeping them into that group, I'm sure the same motivational factor will be spread out to the others, and they will bring more to you, and the group will be enlarged. And the motivation factor could be something that once they're out of that scout camp, out of that scout meeting, or when they are in their own life, they do something in a specific, peculiar way that others wonder, and what makes this person do this? And when they dig deeper, they come to realize it is through scouting. So it must be there where we have tangible gains, which these young people share with others. And when they share with others, then we are sure of getting more people. And then that's what we are saying now. Tell people what you are doing. Let it be captivative. Let it be well captured. Let people see what you are doing. Let people gain your story, gather your story, and let people be attracted through your story when it is very well packaged. Then once you've dealt with getting people through your existing scout groups, then you move into the untapped waters. That means these are places where we didn't have the scout existing. And you have to identify the right place to develop the new group. And by this, we mean the right place that's where you could have scouts meeting, the safety of the scouts, and of course, all the requirements and regulations that pertains to human being is followed, and people can be able to feel free and secure to release their children and even for them to join the scouts as they move on. And once you've already identified the right place, then you recruit a very strong team within that region. Then you train it and make it become part of you, which will now start to recruit others and increase the number of the scouts within that area. And then you facilitate networking with the neighbors and neighboring scout groups. You enjoin them, you make them become friends, or they connect very well, and they will share the best practices, the best activities they've been doing, and they become like mentors to the new ones. And these new ones will always want to become as good as the ones that they're seeing in their neighborhood. So you can see now the effect of joining them to the existing scout groups. They learn a lot and they even attract more because they have seen this thing is happening and it's not a fictitious thing. Then you can see again, you need to support them, facilitate them to be supported. Once the groups are formed, let them be supported, let them not be left alone. Once, if it is a school, if it is somewhere else, let it be supported. And the support of this could be from the local and regional stakeholders. We have in some NSOs where the leadership from the national level up to the grassroots level is very well established. Let them be supported by the local leaders. Let them be visited. Let them be encouraged, and the programs of the NSOs be given to them, and they are encouraged to move on, and they are invited into all the meetings that are required, all the camps, and regularly visited for motivation and for encouragement, and then you move on. Now, these places could be prisons. You may have not thought of the prison where we have got scouts can be recruited there. We've got religious institutions where the worship centers are there, and the children would want to join the scouting. We visit those places. Could be even within the villages and estates where we have open troops, open groups. You can have a group within a village, within an estate, and once you've already formed that one, you nurture them and you enjoin them with the existing scout groups for them to grow. So these untapped areas are very many, and we can go to them and get more scouts. So open up your mind and know that it is not only in schools, it is not only in the universities, it is not only in colleges where we get scouts. We can get them everywhere, anytime, so long as you are packaging that scouting very well, you are selling it very well, and your modes of communication are very, very good. And for you to maintain them, you have to, to get them, you have to reach even other youth organizations that work within the areas, and you know what they are doing, and you sell the idea of scouting, and they would want even to join scouting because of values, because of image, and because of what they see. So you can visit the other youth organizations and you work with them. And then you ensure continuity. Once you've recruited them, don't leave them there. Let them continue and move forward, earning the badges, working for their badges, until at the end of it all, you will bring back that very well packaged scout into the society to serve the society diligently. Remember from my first talk, I said that once we recruit a scout, it is the first step to package a very good gift to the society. And once we nurture that person up to the end, and this person gains values, skills, and becomes useful to the society, we give them back to the society a complete person who is acceptable and will bring more other scouts as a way of continuity. And that's the way we need to move to it. So go to the groups where they are meeting, in their picnics, in their hikes. Many organizations are doing that one. Reach them out and make sure that you tell them about scouting, because they may not have had it, or they could have had it, but they don't know exactly what that one means. Then how do you do that? Many people ask, then how do we recruit? What is this recruitment are you telling us about? How do we move from one person to many person? So we can do what we call individual group. You can see it is well enlisted there. You can ask someone, you can tell them a story that you are scout and they want to hear about it. Personally, I've done so much on that, even when I'm not in uniform. When they ask me, and what do you do for your living? I tell them, in most cases, I find myself doing scouting, and then the story continues. I get one person, they get in. The next moment, we are now training with them. Bring a guest to your meetings. They will be able to get to know what happens, and then they sell you, advertise in all manners of advertisements, and then have a clear club goal. What is the goal of that group that we are coming up with? And the list is endless. It is there, you can get it, and you can always visit to it. And then you can learn to expand your group, you can learn to maintain it, and you can learn to motivate it up to the end. It is one thing to recruit, but another thing to maintain and retain the membership within that scout group. And how do you do that one? This is through the 7 ingredients of growth, which I would not want to touch them now. You can visit them to the website. We have the website, and I think I bring myself to conclusion as having given you the impetus towards the recruitment and how you can do it robustically and very well. So with that, Joe, I think we can go now to the best practices.
Agreed. Thank you very much for that, Josephat. In the interest of time, and I'm very conscious of the fact that for Clark, it's already well past midnight now. So I'm going to give the floor immediately to him so he can dive into sharing his best practice right away. Clark, the floor is yours. I'm going to see if I need to unmute you. There we go.
Thank you. In my native language, kia ora, everyone. Can we jump to my slides, please? Or no slides at all? This is fun.
Josephat, you need to continue sharing the slides.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I've shared the wrong one. Okay.
All right, next slide, please.
Okay, we can start with that one. Okay.
Next slide, please. Right. So as I said, kia ora, everyone. I thought this evening I'd take the opportunity to briefly talk about one of the big barriers we have with recruitment in New Zealand, and which is that volunteers, and I know we often hear this, volunteers often associate growth with more work for them, which is not necessarily unreasonable for a volunteer. If I think about everything we ask a scout leader to do, asking them to do more of it by having more youth members can seem a little daunting. Now, I don't necessarily think this is an insurmountable challenge, but I do want to talk about some of the ways we think about this challenge in New Zealand. So I guess the crux of my presentation will be how can we think about motivating volunteers to take on the challenge of growth? And I've got a little diagram there, growth equals more work, or as another member put it to me a couple of weeks ago. Next slide, please. Mo members, mo problems. Next slide, please. So in Scouts New Zealand, when we talk to members about growth, we don't actually talk about growth, we talk about impact and expanding our impact. And the reason we do that, I don't know if everyone is familiar, but some of you will be, with the golden circle way of thinking, I guess. You can Google it, there's an outstanding TED talk on it, but you can see it on the slide there on the left. The notion that when communicating with people, we often talk about the what we want to communicate, but actually to really connect with people with impact, we should start by talking about the why. So when we talk about growth in Scouts New Zealand, we link it to our purpose as an organisation, and we talk about growing our impact. So, you know, in a global sense, why do we want to grow? Well, we're about creating a better world, and we believe that what we're doing develops and empowers young people to do that. So if that's why we're all involved in Scouts, why wouldn't we want more of that? Is the kind of language and tools that we use to communicate with our volunteers. So instead of saying you should go out and grow, your growth needs to grow, your group needs to grow, you need more members, we say, you know, we're about improving our impact, so we need more members to do that. Next slide, please. So if we shift our focus from growth to impact, in Scouts New Zealand, we actually have what we call our little impact equation, where we talk about impact being a function of the number of youth members that we have, so growth, but we also talk about it as being sort of multiplied by the diversity of young people in the communities that we operate in, and then multiplied again by the quality of our program. And we know that these things actually feed off one another. So when we have a more diverse membership, we tend to be available and open to more young people. So we see more growth in those communities. And where we invest in the quality of our programs, surprise, surprise, where we deliver a better program, we get more young people who want to engage in that program. There is a kind of dividing factor, something which drags down our impact, which we talk about a bit in Scouts New Zealand as well. That's volunteer behaviour, or more specifically what we call non-aligned volunteer behaviour. So where volunteers are acting outside of our values, and we're very clear that that's a drag on growth, and we have a very structured AIS type conversation where we have a 3 Rs, renew, retire, or reassign. And if a volunteer is behaving in a non-aligned way, it's very much a retire conversation. Next slide, please. So what I thought is I would finish by offering a brief case study from COVID. So sort of jumping from the theoretical right into the really practical. I'm aware some of you might have seen this because I believe Kelly Bleakley pinched my slides. But Scouts New Zealand, when we went into a COVID-19 lockdown in March, we committed to rolling out our program online to all of the families involved in our program. And we did that very rapidly within days of going into lockdown. But what we also realized was there was an opportunity to share our program with more young people than just our own members. So what we did was we started making our Scouting from Home program drops available to anyone who registered on our website. And what we saw was that, and then we promoted that through major media. So in the interest of time, we won't play it, but we got television spots on the 6 p.m. news on all of the major TV channels in New Zealand, promoting Scouting from Home as a free service available for all young people in New Zealand. We signed up over 5,000 new families. A lot of those families had more than one young person in them. And our Q2 membership, we measure our membership quarterly in New Zealand. We're up 1.2% since coming out of the COVID-19 lockdown. And what our experience has been is we have rapidly reached out to every new family that's joined us. And every new family that's signed up for a Scouting from Home program, where we have reached out to them, made contact and connected them to a local group, they've been far more likely to join a Scout group and commit to Scouting long term than young people who we haven't been able to contact. So that's just a little case study. I'm available for any questions on our impact model or our little Scouting from Home recruitment drive.
Thank you very much. I think, Joe, we go now to the questions, or we go to Daisy. Hello, Joe.
Okay. I was still muted. Yes. Was there anybody? Thank you very much, Clark, for that brilliant sharing. And I think you guys have been doing some amazing work.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions at this point for Clark? Because otherwise he's going to sign off after this, because the man needs a bed. Any reflections or questions in terms of what Scouting New Zealand has been doing in response to the COVID-19 situation? You can either raise your hand or you can, there's a question to play the video, but I think we can share the video because this might be a bit tricky, also in terms of timing. Maybe Clark, if you can share the video on social media, and then we'll pick it up and we'll amplify.
Yep. I will put a link to the video in the chat. How about that?
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead. Any other questions or any reflections?
There are a couple of questions in the chat, Jon, if I may interfere just to read them out. Is there any insurance impact on free online scouting when the kid's doing the scouting program? And the second question is, because I think it's for Clark, if not for free Scouting from Home recruitment drive, how much it costs for joining Scouting New Zealand?
Okay, so the first question, our legal framework in New Zealand means that our insurance for injury is covered by our taxes. So that's not really an issue for us in New Zealand, although I would note that Scouts Australia has run a similar program where they don't have that legal protection. In designing our programs, we put a great deal of effort into one, making sure they reflect the Scout program, two, making sure they're safe, and three, making sure that families can do them together. So, I mean, we called it Scouting from Home, but it was really family-based scouting. So rather than providing a cub program and a scout program, we provided some activities that families of all ages could do together. And there was safety guidance provided to obviously parents, because they're the ones who are leading this. But we didn't bring an insurance angle to it. In terms of membership, membership fees are subjective. Maybe that's not the right word in New Zealand. Our base fee is about $200 a year in New Zealand. To convert that to USD, that would be about 140 USD, if that's helpful to people. And then there's a group fee on top of that. But worth noting, though, that base fee is often discounted by our Youth Foundation based on the New Zealand government's deprivation index for a community. So if you're in the sort of lowest income groups, communities in New Zealand, you don't pay a base fee. if you're in a high income community, you're paying that full amount. Is that answer the questions, I hope?
Great. There's maybe one final one.
Sure.
Wonderful presentations, but on the home recruitment, how do families welcome scouts in the times of lockdown, or they invite you?
I think we provided a suite of programs and activities that young people could do in their own home. And then it was supplemented by our community groups continued to meet via online. So we provided every one of our groups with a Google Hangouts link so that they had a safe space where they could meet in a sort of child safe or safe from harm environment once a week or more frequently in some cases. And then we, the people who received the program for free, they weren't connected to a group. So they were just doing it by themselves. I've lost my train of thought there.
I think you answered the question.
Yeah.
I see that there's a number of other questions. There's one from Frank, but I think we'll take that at the end. There's one final one from Mauro, and then I'll suggest in the interest of time that we move on because we still have two case studies to go to. Who designed the Scouting from Home program? Was it volunteers or Scout professionals?
It was written by Scout professionals, I guess, but they are volunteers. What we did when we went into COVID-19 lockdown was we redeployed all of our professional resource to do online scouting and scouting from home. And some of those professionals are volunteers as well. So I hope that answers it. It's probably worth noting too, Scouts New Zealand doesn't have a COVID-19 lockdown anymore. So part of the advantage of this program is all of our Scout groups are operating business as usual now. So our lockdown lasted 6 weeks. Our groups were closed for 9 weeks, and now we're back to business as usual, luckily. I'd be keen and interested to talk to anyone another time about what scouting in a post-COVID environment looks like.
I think we should have that conversation at some point. All right. Yep. But for now, thank you very, very much, Clark. Not just for presenting, but also for all the work that you've been doing and keeping scouting going for so many young people. I think it's brilliant to see what you and your team have been doing. And yeah, I think we'll have that conversation about scouting in a post-COVID-19 situation. I think there's some lessons to be learned from there. All right, with that, I just want to say thank you and let you go off to bed. That you very much deserve.
Thank you, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you for the time and opportunity tonight.
Thank you very much for joining. Ciao. With that, I'm going to pass and I'm going to ask Josephat to move the slide one more forward because we have a best practice from Kenya coming up. We don't need a video, Josephat, because now we're going to go into music, I think. We have Daisy from the Scout Association of Kenya, hopefully with us. Goran, can you unmute her? Or Jordan, can you unmute her? Because I don't see her on my screen immediately. Ah, I do see it. There we go. Unmute. Josephat, can you take it to the slide for Daisy?
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me to this platform. I'm here representing Kenya. And okay, I see most countries are struggling with registration. It is not, we are, in the recent past, we have also had such struggles since around 2011, between 2011 and 2012. That is when we realized that we were constantly reporting the same numbers all the time. So that actually prompted us to start a new recruitment drive, because you realize from around 2011, we had, we usually registered between 90,000 to 120,000 scouts annually. And when the GSAT came, it made us realize that we actually had no realistic numbers and evidence to produce that indeed we had these scouts. So with the time, we came up with we actually streamlined our system and upgraded our registration systems. And that means we had to involve our rovers, we had to involve the secretariat, we had to involve our scout leaders on the ground. Luckily, the government, especially the Ministry of Education, supports the Kenya Scouts Association when it comes to matter scouting. And we thank God for that. So what happens, registration in Kenya is actually school-based. So you find that most of our scouts are actually from schools and from churches. This means that annually, we are actually sure we are going to get new members coming into the movement. That way, you also find that the Ministry of Education annually gives support us by providing some funds, which actually helps facilitate the scouting activities. Because you realize registration in Kenya, it's $1 per scout. So annually, each scout gives us $1. So who are involved in this process, recruitment process? We involve the Ministry of Education. With their help, we usually come up with the introductory letters to help our rovers maneuver into the schools. That way they can identify themselves as our scouts. We also have the scout leaders who actually plays a big role in also during this recruitment process. And then we also have campaign programs that were organized. That is between around 2017. No, that was 2016 in our strategic plan. It was actually a 5-year strategic plan from 2013 to 2016, where we had to purchase motorbikes and purchase a car to ease the movement and transport facilitation for our rover scouts and our scout leaders to actually go down to the ground, all the way to grassroots to get as new scouts. We also have, we have actually also come up with the coordinators, and this is also through the help of our government. So with the coordinators have actually been tasked by the government just to ensure that all the scouts are actually under, if any leader is going to be in charge of the scouts, there has to be teachers and not just anybody from the ground. So most of our volunteers are teachers from the Ministry of Education. And so with the process, we also had to revise our program handbooks to actually make it more vibrant, to accommodate and fit the young scout of this generation, because we realized our old books were not in line with our strategic plan. So such things have actually made it easy for us. We have also upgraded our website, where we also do online registrations. We have online platforms where, because of distance from nationally, the headquarters is based in Nairobi. So all our volunteers, not everyone can make it to the headquarters. So with online registration, they can just register online and then make also payment. That way it saves us time and energy to travel around. Then we also introduced the progressive books. So our scouts are able to work with their membership cards and alongside their progressive books. Also, so over the years, our story, I remember in 2013, we only had around 300,000 registered scouts. And around 2014, we grew to 500,000 scouts. Then currently, we are actually at over 2 million scouts, and that is because of the assistance we get from our Ministry of Education and our scout leaders on the ground. So I think I'll be open to any questions. On our slides, I'd shared samples of our registration forms.
Yeah, I'm not sure the slides are in this deck, but maybe Goran can pull them up. Does anybody have any questions for Daisy? You can either raise your hand or put the question in the chat. I don't see any questions just yet, and I don't see anybody raising their hand at this stage. There was a question regarding from Mauro Lages. Can you repeat the increasement of members' numbers?
Sorry?
Can you repeat? You mentioned how much you grew from.
Actually, in 2013, we had 300 scouts. And in 2014, we moved to 500,000 scouts. 2016, we managed to register 700,000 scouts. And actually 2017, that is when we hit our 1 million target. Although our strategic plan, we intended to reach 4 million scouts by 2020. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we were not able to achieve some of our goals.
I think that goes for a lot of your colleagues also in the call and outside the call. There's a question, how does the recruitment for new scout at Kenya school work?
The new recruit, usually we recruit scouts annually from January. That is when we start recruiting, because our curriculum starts in January. So annually, you find that we share our registration forms online and also through our scout leaders, who in turn they go and recruit the scouts on the ground, and then they come with the reports to the national headquarters. And then that is when we provide them with their membership cards alongside the progressive books.
I think that's great. There's one more question about the payment of the fees. Can the registration be done online, or is it, how does it work?
Yeah, it is done online. We have M-Pesa lines, and also we have our the volunteers can come direct to the office and make payment.
All right, brilliant. I think sorry, Josephat.
Yeah, the M-Pesa line is a mobile transfer money where they can do it from their comfort of their home. All
right, brilliant. Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm gonna move us to the next NSO best practice. We have Christoph Weber with us, who will explain a little bit about, well, a little bit. He will tell you everything that they've been doing in terms of sharing the responsibility for growth also with the local level. And again, Christoph is a chairperson of the national growth team of BDP, one of the German associations. And Christoph, the floor is yours. Wait, I'm going to need to unmute you. My apologies. I think we're all. Why can I not? There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
All right, fantastic. All right. Well, a very warm welcome and very warm wishes from Germany. And if I look outside, it's really, really hot. So I could just as well say it's a very hot welcome. And I'm very pleased to be here and to be able to tell you about our growth efforts in Germany, which we have been doing for the last few years. Well, my short presentation is all about ownership in membership recruitment. Whose job is it to recruit, and who can help us in successfully recruiting new members? Next slide, please. Can we move on, Josephat? Please, the next slide. Yeah, so what is this all about? I'm going to present you a benchmarking method that we introduced a few years back. And it may seem like a very unspectacular method, but it has proven some spectacular results. And sometimes we call it's the world's best recruitment campaign that isn't actually a recruitment campaign, because it does a lot of other great things as well, but it helped us to grow very considerably. Okay, next slide, please. Nope, that's not the one.
I think Goran is working his magic with the
okay.
presentation.
Okay.
So bear with us for a second. It's a learning by doing experience.
Of course, that's what scouting's all about, isn't it? But actually, I could continue without the slides as well if you would like me to. That's fine, because we're running out of time, aren't we? So I'll just give you some general ideas about, some general ideas about recruitment. Growth doesn't happen in the national committee meeting. We all know that, yeah? And our recruiters, sorry, that's a typo here. It's supposed to be recruiters. Who are recruiters? Who are the people who are doing the recruitment outside there? That's our local leaders. So how can we convince them that they actually want to grow? Because that is the key to successfully recruiting new members. We have to get the huge and powerful army of recruiters that are our local leaders to do that work for us. Now, how can we involve them? Okay, next slide, please. Our approach is all about supporting struggling or existing groups. Yeah, we want to help them we want to revive the struggling groups that we have. And luckily for us, and that approach, we have a lot of small and dysfunctional groups in our NSA. And that is a very massive growth potential, because if all of our groups had 70 active members, that would be a growth of 85% for us, okay? So that is the path that we decided to choose, that we want to march on, and that is what that is our target group for growth. We're not talking about starting new groups here at all. It's just about reviving and improving the situation of groups that are struggling and not working very well right now, okay? Good, next slide, please. The problem is that although we need the local leaders for the recruitment, a lot of them don't feel like they really want to do the recruitment. When we go and say, hey, what do you think? Why don't you grow? They say, why should we grow? We've got a lot of other problems ourselves. Why would we want to grow? You want to grow, national level want to grow, WASM wants to grow. What has WASM ever done for us? We have all to do all the work. We do all the hard work here at the ground. And so a lot of people don't seem to be very enthusiastic, because as Clark already pointed out in his presentation about the situation in New Zealand, for most volunteers, they think recruiting and growth means more work. So they are not very happy when we shout, let's grow. Okay, next slide, please. The solution seems to be for us that local scout groups, well, we have to face the fact that local scout groups are not very emotional about national growth, because they don't feel they are not connected to that. They don't feel that it's their business to help our national association to grow, because it's too far away, it's too abstract, it's too big for them. But we realize that our group leaders are very emotional about their own group, the situation of their own group, the well-being of their own group. And once we start talking about the situation in their own group, they start to be very happy to work, and to work very hard if they see that what we are doing with them has direct benefits for their own group, and that it improves the situation of their own group. So that is the key to our approach. We don't talk about national growth, we talk about the actual situation of the individual scout group that these volunteers are a member of and that they deeply care about. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, please. The method is what we call in German der Stammesplan. I don't know how good your German is. It means the plan for the scout group, and it's nothing but a benchmarking method for sustainable growth of local scout groups. What we do is we meet our leaders of each individual scout group, or we invite them for an annual check-up meeting with all the local scout group leaders. And this is led by 2 volunteer trainers from the regional level, which is very, very important for growth in our opinion. And all the national level have to do is to train those trainers, which will go into the groups and work with the leaders. Okay, that's what we do. On you go, please. And what happens at that check-up weekend? It is a strategic planning session, of course. So this way we want to make sure that all our groups have an annual strategic planning session, which is very important. The group situation is then compared to a set of growth benchmarks, set of benchmarks that are important for any successful Scout group. We then develop SMART goals for each of the benchmarks, and we have the leader team develop a strategy to reach these goals. So the leaders do all the work basically. And 1 year after that, we meet again with the same people and we evaluate the success or what has not worked out so well. And we start again in the whole process, new strategic planning session, new goals, and so on and so on. So it's a cycle in which we hope to develop and improve the quality of the work of the Scout group. I would like to point out that no professional help, no professional staff is necessary at any stage of this process so far. It can all be run by volunteers, and we have done that very successfully. Okay, go on, please. Next slide, please. So what are the benchmarks against which the work of the group is measured? We say that a success for a Scout group to run successfully, it needs to have a membership of 70+ active members. We need to have a well-organized leader team. We need enough trained and motivated leaders. We need a very good quality program for the young people. A group needs, of course, resources. It needs to have rooms where it can meet. It needs to have equipment. It needs to have enough money of some sort. And it needs to have a local network of partners, of organizations, of stakeholders which want to support us. And those are the 6 areas which we think are crucial for any group to be run successful. And we check that with the leaders at that planning session. Okay, next slide, please. Does that method, which seems very simple, if you ask me, it's very simple. It's one meeting once a year. Does it lead to recruitment and growth? Yes, it does. In the 2 regions that we've worked with it in the past few years, we've doubled membership within 10 years in Rhineland-Palatinate, which is the area where I'm from. And we've, in the Saxony region, which is in East Germany, which is very uncharted territory for German scouting, because we have very, very few scouts there for historical reasons. We had an 68% growth within 4 years only. And I think that's quite impressive. Well, by German standards, it is at least, okay? Not like in Kenya maybe, but in Germany, it is very impressive. Okay, go on, please. Next slide. Why do we think does this lead to growth? Because we get the groups to accept that the membership of 70% is vital for their own well-being. It's not because we want our groups to be so big, but we can convince them that it is important for their group to have 70+ members, because then they will be able to deliver quality scouting, and then they will have a much higher life expectancy as a Scout group, okay? And thereby the leaders feel the need to recruit for the benefit of their own group. And that makes them want to grow instead of feeling like they have to grow because we tell them so. No, they want to grow because they care about their own Scout group. And so the ownership of the growth process moves from the top of the movement to the bottom of the movement, where it needs to be if we want to succeed with recruitment, in our opinion. Okay, go on, please. How do we support the groups to reach their goals? Well, we give them some training for recruitment, but it's very, very basic. We answer their questions if they have any, but very often we realize that they have a lot of good ideas on their own, and so we just tell them, go ahead, we think that's clever. We have follow-up phone calls, we offer constant advice. Of course, we provide leaflets, brochures, websites, social media, the stuff that we all do, I suppose. And we also offer platforms. We offer meetings where the local leaders can share their ideas on recruiting with other leaders from other groups. And that is very, very helpful, of course. But on the other hand, the floor is just left to the local leaders. They are responsible. They're in charge of their own recruitment process, and they will carry it out because they feel it is about their group. It's in their own interest. So they choose the right time, the right settings, the right method. We don't tell them. They can choose, and they will be very, very happy to do so. Yeah. So once the ownership is accepted by the local leaders, they need very little support in our experience. Okay. Okay. On go, please. Why do the groups accept our method? I think that's very important. The groups appreciate the support by the region because they have the feeling, hey, this is really about us. It is not the regional or national level telling us what we have to do, but it is the regional level asking us, what do we need? How can we help you to deliver quality scouting? They care about us. And that is a very important experience for them. So we enact no pressure, but we offer support. We enact no pressure. We don't tell them what they have to do. We don't even make them join the strategic planning meetings. We make them an offer, okay? And some of them, when we started off with this whole thing, a lot of groups didn't care, but some did. So we call those the pioneer groups. So the first group who tried it out, and they were very happy with what they experienced. It got very good results very quickly, and we got them to tell their success stories to the others. And that's why a lot of other groups got interested, and why a lot of other groups started, which got equally great results. And now almost all our groups do it once a year, okay? But we didn't force them. We just said, here, we have a good idea. Try it out if you want to. If you don't, don't. But since some tried it out and told others about it, that's how we spread the idea. Okay, go on, please, Joseph. Okay, and what has it got to do with the 7 key ingredients of growth? You kindly asked me to try to bring those into the context, and I think it has a lot to do with it, yeah? You can find those in the WASM Growth Toolkit, which was written for the national level, of course, but I think what we're doing is we're breaking it down, we're translating it to the local level with our method, because we have most of the key ingredients for growth included in the strategic planning meeting in this annual checkup. What we do at this weekend, we're setting targets and a strategy for growth for the individual group. Yeah, we have a check on the quality of the youth program of each group. We help them to develop better programs. Yeah, at the same time, this helps to train and retain leaders, because it is very motivational for the leaders, because we are solving the problems of the individual groups. And at the same time, it is a very good training for the leaders as well, because they learn so much about how scouting should be carried out at the local level. Okay, it is, of course, has to do a lot with communication, although that is the least important aspect of it, I think. It helps very much to strengthen our organization, because it strengthens the organization of each group, but also the link, it bridges the gap between the local and the regional level, because both levels see that they can help each other, that they need each other. And a lot of trust is developed in those meetings, yeah, between the local and the regional level. It's not so much about partnerships for growth, but this is something for national or regional level more than for the local level, although they also work with that as well. But it's all about outreach and recruitment, because we're talking about the number of members that each group has, and most groups will realize, okay, we really could do with a lot more members. So it actually leads to recruitment. And I've presented to you before the growth numbers that we've produced with this. Okay. So yeah, that's basically it. I would be very happy to answer a lot of your questions, but yeah, on you go. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your attention. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you very much for that. I think you gave a very good walkthrough of what you've been doing, and I think the results speaks for themselves. I'm also very happy to see that you guys really onboarded a number of key elements that we've also been sharing through the growth toolkit. I think it even starts by saying growth doesn't happen at national level, it happens at local level. It happens where the young people actually are. And I think you guys really took that on board and actually have been implementing exactly that. And I'm also very keen to see this element about not trying to force local groups to grow, but getting a number of pilot groups to show the good example, which sometimes leads to a bit of healthy competition between the groups, because they see it working for somebody else, and that triggers them to also want to do it. So instead of the national level having to take 5 years to convince a group to grow, sometimes just having a conversation with their neighbor groups, it already does the trick like that.
Oh yeah, very much.
So with that, any questions for Christoph? I'm conscious of the time, so if you have any questions, raise your hand. I see there's already a number of them in the chat. I see you getting a lot of applause and kudos. What age range are you targeting for the 70+ membership number, asks Andrew.
Yeah, that is Cub Scouts to Rovers, so that would be 7 to 20 basically. But the majority of the recruiting is done in the Cub Scout section, so 7 to 11 in Germany, definitely. So by far the easiest age range to get new members.
I see a question from Sergio. I'm interested in the German success story. How can we contact him? Maybe you can send.
I will share my email address.
There we go. Yes, thank you. And then there's a question about if there's a document about your method. I'm not sure.
There is, but I'm afraid it's in German. Yeah, we've got a very nice handbook, but it's in German. But I gladly send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe you can share and then we'll build on it. It is easier to make existing groups stronger instead of creating new ones. I think that is very correct.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any questions? You can also raise your hand and I'll give you the floor to pose your question directly to Christoph.
I think the rest of the comments are compliments. So we don't have any other question on the chat box.
Yeah, but read the compliments, please. I'm very happy to hear that. No,
the compliments are really good, very good presentation. Christoph needs to shave, but that's okay.
So says my wife.
No, it's how much is the fee charged in Germany?
In Germany, it depends because the groups can add to the charge, but the national charge is something like, it's less than 30 euros. So it's, I would say $35 or something, but usually it would be something like $70 for a group or something on average, I suppose, which is not much in Germany at all.
Yeah, and I think that's the important part because I see this question coming up a number of times, also in other sessions. The exact base of the fee, and while, as Clark explained as well, it might change because of the different legal structures within a country.
Exactly.
But also keep in mind that you should actually look at it as a percentage of GDP, because it's very much
not
different.
very much, not at all. There is no child in Germany which cannot join scouting because of the fees. No, not at all.
And then there was one final question, and I think I'll wrap it up. What is the ratio of how many Cubs complete a scouting journey from Cub Scouts to Rover Scouts? Do you have that information?
I think I don't have a ratio for you, but German scouting is very good at retention. I think we lose very few members when they change sections. So I couldn't give you a number though, I'm afraid. Sorry.
That's okay. And I'll forgive you for that if you take off the beard. With that, I just wanted to say and express my thanks, Christoph, for a very, very wonderful, not just presentation, but wonderful initiative in terms of growing the Scout movement in Germany. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. And looking at the reactions, I think there's a lot of people are gonna take on board at least a number of the lessons that you've shared. So if you want to stick around, stick around. We're almost wrapping up. There's one more thing that we wanted to share with you. If Goran can bring me to the next slide. So part of the exercise, and I've mentioned this in the beginning, part of the exercise moving forward, once we start getting out of the COVID-19 situation and start transitioning into the post-COVID-19 reality, we want to, and this is part of our Growing Stronger Together plan, so our plan for 2020-2021, that will take us to the next World Scout Conference. And part of what we want to do there is support NSOs in doing a membership recruitment campaign as a response to this constant concern about losing membership. And for that, we've set up a Padlet, and maybe Goran can open it. I can share the, no, I can't share the link. We will share the link in the chat window, and there's a question for you. It's a bit of homework because we really need to wrap it up here. So Goran just shared the link in the chat. So it goes to padlet.com and then you have a number of links. If you go there, you will see a beautiful Padlet, which is called My Fearless Padlet. There we go. And we want you to, in the next 7 days, brainstorm a bit with us about what we will do to recruit new members. So just share your ideas of potential opportunities to recruit new members, of how to target them, how to do a recruitment campaign and so forth. Who do we want to involve in that? And what support do you as an NSO need from WASM in order to be able to do that? And I would very much recommend you to take in mind the story that Christoph just shared in terms of how do we do or strengthen recruitment at a local level. And so what kind of support you as an NSO also need to do to support that taking place. So what's the support that you would need from WASM, and what support do you think you would need to be delivering to the local groups? So in the Padlet, it's open to everybody. You just click on the link and you can fill it in. And there we would really be keen to capture your ideas and your remarks. I see already one from Jorge. To populate that with your thinking and your needs so that we can take it on board when we start looking at retention and recruitment across the next year. Voilà. With that, I saw somebody raising their hand before. Is that still the case? No, I think the hand went down. Are there any further remarks in the chat? Sorry, yes, Jordan, I almost forgot, my apologies. Jordan, again, shared a link in the chat, so there's now 2 links you need to click. One is to the Padlet, and the other one goes to a Google form where we are keen to capture your feedback on the session itself, allowing us to continue improving our sessions, again, being a learning by doing organization, and so we can improve the sessions for tomorrow based on your feedback. So that's it for now. I just wanted to say a big thank you to our speakers and our panelists. Daisy, thank you very much for bringing the story from Kenya. And Christoph, thank you for sharing the story from Germany. Very much appreciated. And Josephat, thank you very much for facilitating the session and providing your inputs along the way.